kind of feel like they're dressing up as these famous people. So each one of them has the same face, and then their outfits and their poses change a little bit. And I thought I want them to kind of have really rendered out foregrounds, like their clothes are really rendered, and I want the background to be kind of sketchy, sort of like they're kind of closing their eyes and imagining themselves in the world of these wonderful people, like they're kind of playing dress up. And I wanted them to all be in the same place on each page so that when you flip through, one, they kind of animate, and I wanted it to feel like maybe it's just like one kid dressing up as all these different people. In this way, I wanted young readers to be able to see a little bit of themselves in every single one. And when I was a little kid, I used to watch cartoons with my cousin, and she would always, as soon as it started, she would always choose one character and be like, that one's me. And I would always be stuck with like a lame character. I remember watching The Angry Beavers, and I was just so angry that I couldn't get to be the cool one. And I was like, if I ever make a book, I'm going to make sure every single one is cool and every single one is adorable so that every kid can choose one and still be happy with it. And I chose this style, this like, you know, really simple, sweet style, because I wanted it to feel like a little bit vintage, a little bit classic, kind of thinking like Winnie the Pooh. I wanted to make a book that felt really sweet and adorable, and I wanted it to feel like it could sit right on the shelf next to Winnie the Pooh. Like these stories of Black girls always belonged there, because when I was growing up, I never saw these stories and never saw girls like me reflected back in the books that I was reading. And I wanted, you know, I've always been really inspired by illustrators like Mary Blair, these kind of mid-century style illustrators like Miroslav Sazek, This Way to Paris or This Way to London. Mary Blair's, I wrote about her in my second book. You can read about her and find out. But look at this cover. This is a classic little golden book. Look at the pose she's got. She's got her eyes closed, and she's got this sweet smile. And what I wanted was to kind of make something that felt like that. To me, this just reads innocent. This reads sweetness. This reads adorable. So I wanted them to kind of have the roundness of Winnie the Pooh and the sweetness of a Mary Blair painting. Yes, thank you. So that when you see them, you just want to like hug them and love them. And a lot of that is inspired. I think I was working kind of by intuition in knowing that I wanted to do that. I wanted to make something that was as amazing as Winnie the Pooh for myself. But it got really reinforced when I read this study back in 2017, right around the same time I was working on the book, to really understand why this was so important. So the study came out of the Georgetown Law Review that said that young Black girls are viewed as less innocent and more adult than their white counterparts, than their white peers, starting at the age as early as 5. I pulled it up so I can just read it straight from you. It's from the Georgetown Law Center on Poverty and Inequality. Provides for the first time data showing that adults, us, view Black girls as less innocent and more adult-like than their white peers. The report builds on similar results that have emerged from studies about Black boys. That said that Black boys are more likely than they're perceived, beginning at the age of 10, Black boys are more likely than their white peers to be misperceived as older, viewed as guilty of suspected crimes, and face police violence if accused of a crime. So the snapshot of the data said that people perceive that Black girls need less nurturing, Black girls need less protection, Black girls need to be supported less, Black girls need to be comforted less. Black girls are more independent, they know more about adult topics, and including sex. So when I read this, I was like, first of all, it just broke my heart because, you know, I still feel very in touch with my young child version of myself. And I think, God, and I also know that it took me a long time to kind of come of age, to understand myself and what I wanted in life. And if I had been perceived in this way, you know, by the wrong person too early, how damaging that could have been. Fortunately, you know, I've been very, you know, privileged in my life to not have experienced that, but that just breaks my heart. And I tell people this, and a lot of the events that I go to, and some of them are like, that doesn't sound right. I don't think like that. But this is like, these are the studies. They followed up the study with another one where girls, where they interviewed actual girls to see, like, do you experience this? And the stories are just heartbreaking, and they're innumerable. So I really wanted, through my work, like, I don't have a huge platform. I'm not a politician, but I do make drawings. And I thought, if through my drawings, I can remind people that all kids are kids, that they're just all equal of deserving of that love and that innocence. If you can look at Winnie the Pooh and think, oh my God, so adorable, why shouldn't you be able to look at a little black girl and think, oh my God, that's so adorable? And then, beyond that, with the boys and everyone else. So I really want all of the work that I'm doing outside of Little Leaders, like beyond into like CC Love Science and Sulway, to create content that makes people think, that's so pretty, that's so sweet, and just like break up that kind of implicit bias that they may have, that some kids are just, that kid is bad and needs punishment, or that kid should know better, look how like tall she is, she should know better. Like, all kids deserve that opportunity to be kids and deserve that innocence. So there were a lot of choices and reasons as to why I made these books look this way. So it was a mixture of feeling like I want it to be pretty and I want it to feel vintage. I want to show Black girls in this sweet style, but I also just like want to like use this as an opportunity to share more pictures and versions of Black girls, like, and challenge people.
Hey, it's like 4:52. You want to take some questions?
Yes.
All right. Anybody got questions? What's your sign, Vash?
Pisces. Super emotional. In the questions part, it says, would you two consider doing an animated web series featuring Little Leaders? Web series, probably not. I would love to see Little Leaders animated, but I don't want to. I would like to have that produced by a bigger company and not have to be on the ground animating or anything, because I'm not an animator. Has anyone approached you about a Little Leaders TV series? I have talked to people about a Little Leaders series. Would you ever write middle grade fiction? Yes. The next thing I want to create is a illustrated middle grade novel, amongst other things.
Yeah. I really like all these affirmations. This is the week for it. I'm feeling good.
Someone asked a question way back about the board book. The Little Leaders board book is called Dream Big Little One. In the UK, it's called Dream Big Little Leader. It's available now. I mean, I feel like the illustrations in these books definitely lend themselves to younger readers for sure, but technically these books are middle grade. They're encouraged for 8 to 12-year-olds. I feel like they can skew a little younger, but some of the stories talk about enslavement really early on. So I would, encourage parents to be mindful of what you want to share that early, but that's up to you guys.
So I saw some questions I saw repeated. One was, would you ever do the book translated into Zulu, which I think is a little, yes, but I think I'd have to work it out.
Yeah, so the way that I sold the rights were, I just sold the American rights, and each extra sale in other markets requires us a publisher to be interested in that. And unfortunately for a lot of them, they've been asking like they wanted a Brazil edition, but they wanted me to switch out 20 Americans, or I don't know, a lot of the Americans for Brazilians. And it was just a question of being able to find the people to fill those stories. And so a lot of the publishers have felt like it's not in their interest to publish in their market. So that's why it's not up to me. If we wanted it to be published in Dutch, we would need to find a Dutch publisher that wants to print it.
Another question was doing other volumes of the book. So volume 2 of Little Leaders, volume 2 of Legends and Dreamers. I don't think that's in the cards. Let me say this, because sometimes like y'all don't like when it's just me and Vash. Sometimes I feel like Vashti wants to always like she wants to do a lot of stuff. Some of it is like expanding, and some of it is also like doing different things.
Yeah.
And so like doing more Little Leaders books is something you'd want to do, but it means that you don't progress as an artist. And that's the other thing. Like sometimes we forget that children's book illustrators are artists and they want to try different things. They're not just kind of producing things. So, I mean, you know, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you would like to, but you also want to like do different stuff, right?
Right. Do I wish they existed? Yes. Do I have the time to pursue doing years and years more of research? No. Um, but I like, I want to publish some fiction. I have like 3 ideas for more picture books that it's crazy that I've like done 3 nonfiction books, or technically 6 nonfiction books. Like I'm not a historian, I'm not a biographer, I'm a storyteller. So I really want to work on some of the stories that I've been imagining. Obviously, I can express a lot of those ideas through the illustrations that you see on my Instagram page. And so I would like to kind of develop some of those because, I really like fantasy. I really like wonderful, magical worlds. So I would like to explore some of that. Because honestly, I feel like I love knowing that you guys are out there and wanting more content. And so I want to make as much as I can for you right now. And sadly, books take a long time. And if I had more time, I would have taken more time on each of these books. A year, less than a year is not enough time. And just, I was burnt out after doing 3 books in 3 years while also illustrating Swulway and Hair Love and 2 CC Love Science books. So I've been illustrating for technically like 4 years. And in that time, I think published 9 books, which is exhausting. So no, I don't want to do more research right now. I want to draw mermaids.
So this is, as a teacher, the individuals highlighted in the books in school curriculums now, or do teachers have to seek them out? I think I'll say that all the filmmakers are in my curriculum. I'm teaching a class in African American cinema, and so we talk about all of them. Usman Sembene, maybe not because he's African, but like I'll put him in there. I showed anyway. Yeah, I think the teachers, I mean, this is kind of a cop out, but like as a teacher, I know like we are in charge of our classrooms. We have to find those resources and we have to work them into our curriculum and we have to like present them to our students. And if we don't do it, then it's probably not going to happen. Or you're going to get the like story of Harriet Tubman, which is like, she saved a bunch of slaves and then like mysteriously disappeared from history.
Right.
So like it really is on the educators, and then it's on the admin to like support them in getting that stuff. So
I think we're gonna probably be cut off shortly. So before we do, I just want to say thank you to everyone for watching. I know that at Here We Read is doing a live stream at 8 p.m. They are a diversity inclusion expert, kind of talking about a lot of the things that we've been going through. If you guys like, we can restart our live stream just to answer a few more questions, but you'll have to retype them in.
Yeah. What other? Yeah. Oh
yes,
yeah.
I
Thanks,
definitely
guys.
want to
This has
work
been
in
fun.
TV. Thank you guys.
Have
yeah,
you
I
thought
see
about
myself
comic
moving back.
graphic novels?
No,
Back, you
I'm
ever
not a
thought about
sequential
comic
artist. No,
A
I'm
long
not a
time
sequential
ago,
artist.
I tried to talk her into it, and she was like, "No, absolutely not."
Drawing
I
is
tried.
hard, man. God bless the people that can like draw the same character twice because it's hard. I don't like it.
Word. Who else? Anybody else? Thank you for the work. Keep it up. Word up. Thank
In the
you.
questions area, there was one about were you hands-on with the style of the books? Yes, I was like 100% hands-on. Like I sent initial designs, and then the designer kind of like said, "Yeah, here's what we can do with that." So I sent like a version of the cover, and they were like, I put it on white background, and they were like, "How about a soft yellow?" And I was like, great. I designed the end papers. They helped me choose the right colors. And then each one of the layout pages, like, one of the first things that I knew that I wanted was to be able to kind of flip through the book, and so you could see all of the women on this side, because when you buy a book, you pick it up and you flip through it. And I wanted it to kind of feel like candy colors, adorable, sweet colors, and the stories of Black women. But when you typically start a book, the words are on this side of the page. So I sent them a sketch for what the layout could look like in my mind, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." I designed like the borders and all the little bits, but I definitely wouldn't have been able to do this without the publisher. Thank goodness for very smart people who are really good at what they do. So the folks at LittleBrown were a huge support in that. But like, I went to them with all the ideas, and they helped make it happen.
Hey, Vashti, I have a question for you. From Sasha Byman. I shouldn't say it's mine. Do you draw every day, and how do you work through creative block?
I do draw every day usually, although, I was exhausted and, just kind of depressed over the last week because of the news. And like I said, I was feeling like extreme anxiety in my stomach and my chest. So no, I wasn't really drawing. And creative block, I get it sometimes, but I usually kind of get over it really quickly when I just, force myself to draw something slightly different. Like, I wanted to post a drawing, which I did on the other day. And I did like 4 different sketches because I was like, oh, I drew another girl looking to the left and up at the sky. It's, I know, I'm aware of, like, I'm quite repetitive with my work, and so I do challenge myself to try new things, and I force myself to push through it. One thing that I started doing recently was working with paper and collage, because I was getting a little bit bored with my digital illustrations. I don't think I have a particular style. I feel like I draw differently and make differently with different tools. Usually it helps for me to, if I'm exhausted with working digitally, which I usually do in Photoshop on a Cintiq, then I'll draw with pencil. I'll draw with pastel. You can kind of see I have lots of stuff, a really messy table and stuff up on the wall, things that I work on and don't share with anyone. So it helps me to just like force myself to do something different to break through the block.
You got any thoughts on self-publishing?
Thoughts on self-publishing for authors versus illustrators is 2 different things. Nobody who self-publishes is going to like this, but I usually recommend illustrators to, be very careful, and often recommend them to not take on self-published projects, because illustrating a book is a lot of work. Self-publishers, people who are writing, typically writers who want to write their book, hire an illustrator themselves, and then print and publish the book on their own, usually means that they need to find the budget to pay for the illustrator. They have to have the budget to buy all of the books. Usually that means the books have to come to their house sometimes, depending on the publisher. And then every sale they have to do it themselves. So I always ask authors, are you ready to take on like 16 jobs? Like, how are you going to pay the illustrator? How are you going to promote the book? In the end, will it be beneficial for the illustrator? Usually not. But there are people that are out there that will do it. But I recommend that they be open to understanding that illustrating takes a long time, and that usually self-published authors don't have the budget to pay the illustrators what they're worth. I get emails all the time asking me to illustrate books, and I usually have to just say, unfortunately, no. Personally, I only take books that come through my agent, which usually means they come from a publisher. So if you're looking for an illustrator to illustrate your book, I would recommend looking for folks that are open for freelance and open for commissions, and understand that, illustrating Sulway took me like 9 months. Are you ready and willing to pay someone a living wage to illustrate a book for 9 months? Those are important questions. And yeah, you can ask a follow-up if you have more questions on that. I highly recommend joining SCBWI. Everyone thinks I'm kind of blowing them off when I say that, but the Society children's books writers and illustrators, offers a lot of information and support for people who want to write and illustrate books. And again, that was the organization that promoted my artwork, and that's how I met my agent. That's how I got my first book deal. They have a book called The Book, where it has chapters on everything having to do with publishing, including, so you want to write and illustrate your own book. What next? So you just got a book offer. What next? So I recommend it.
There was a question about someone who had a 9-year-old daughter who, or no, I'm sorry, a 5-year-old daughter. There was a 9-year-old daughter who you are their inspiration for. But the 5-year-old daughter really likes, is starting to illustrate her own books. And do you have any pointers for her? Let me see. I'm probably like saying this question wrong. But you answer, and then I'll catch up if I goof it.
Recommendations for anybody that wants to write or illustrate. You can't be an author without being a reader, so you have to read a lot. And this goes for the adults as well. If you want to get your books out there, you should be very aware of what's on the New York Times bestsellers list. You know, as problematic as that list may be, people have been talking about online recently. But see what's selling, understand like what publishers are buying and what's selling, what's popular. And for the young people, I highly recommend, you know, going through the list of books that you like, figuring out what do you like about them, why are they working, and kind of just make sure you're constantly educating yourself on like what's out there. For illustrators, one of my favorite quotes is from this guy, Walt Stanchfield, who was an educator at the Disney studio. He said, each one of us has, or we all have 10,000 bad drawings inside of us. The sooner we get them out, the better. Which really just means we all have to put in the work. You have to draw a lot. You're not going to want to draw every single day, but sort of like how I was saying, I practiced drawing since 2013, nearly every single day, and you can see my work improve. It's not about like some sort of God-given talent. Drawing is a skill. Each one of us can learn it. It's just that a lot of us stopped doing it probably around 5th or 6th grade. So if you want to be a better artist, you have to practice.
And I would also say that like from like if she's 4 years old, she's 5 years old, they're just going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So I think it's too early to be like, oh, what's the advice? But I think the advice for the parents is like, just everything she shows you is the most amazing thing that you've ever seen.
My mom doesn't save any of my art. I don't have any art from childhood. So
my mother is like, she sends me all sorts of stuff I did. Because when you're an artist, like whatever your kid is going to grow up to be, like there are going to be moments where they're questioning themselves and they think that they can't do it and they think that they're terrible. And like you building up their confidence when they're young is going to be something they're going to lean on when they're like 30. So like, just sorry that. So just be so positive with them. Always ask to see it. So even if they don't show it to you, they know that you want to see it and they know that that's really important to them. And that's going to help them throughout their lives, no matter what they want to do. So let's see. Any other questions?
I guess we didn't get cut off after an hour, so I'm happy to answer more questions for a few more minutes. Tiki Barbers, Wahoo Wah. Yeah, I went to UVA for undergrad, and some Cal Arts people are on here. Nice.
Let's see. Who's your favorite doctor? No, yeah, that was a question. Yeah, from Doctor Who. Which one?
Oh. Well, I haven't watched anything after, I never started the Peter Capaldi season.
Oh, right. I'm still trying to talk you into that. All right, fair.
Probably 10. Because of Donna.
How'd you find your agent? How'd you find your agent? Yeah.
I talked about this in the beginning of the whole story. Sure. So if you go back and watch the beginning, it'll be there, but I'll kind of cover the fast version, which was I went to a conference, an SCBWI conference. So again, I'm saying join that organization. So these conferences, the smaller ones are, contained. It's like people who want to get into illustration or, bookmaking put in like a hotel suite or not suite, whatever, ballroom with people from the industry. So I was like, after having gone to Cal Arts and seen all of the incredibly talented young people that were about to get into animation and getting into drawing there, and me just restarting my drawing career, there were a few things that I knew. I really like drawing and I want to be really good at it. I'm going to practice at this. I am not better than anybody else. I was like, I'm not better than most of these kids. So I always had this idea that, like, guys, I can't be the best in the room, but I can be different. How am I going to stand out? So I went to these conferences as like picture book, all these people who were trying to get into children's books. And I was like, okay, there's going to be illustrators there who are showing off their portfolios and trying to meet all the agents and the art directors and the editors that are in this room. And so I was like, I'm not going to be the best one in the room, but I'm going to stand out. And I had gone to another conference earlier in the summer. And two things were very clear to me. I was the youngest person in the room and I was the only person of color in the room. So I was like, okay, I'm already different. So I want my work to reflect that. I want people to notice, and I want to be able to talk to these people and make sure they meet me. My agent was actually the last person I talked to at that conference. I really didn't think I was going to get an agent or meet an agent. I went there to show my artwork to art directors because the way I'd gotten a book deal was getting my art in front of art directors. So everyone talks about postcards, like if you do research on the publishing industry, a lot of illustrators make postcards and send those to art directors so they can see them. And I was like, okay, well, everybody makes postcards. I'm going to make a little book of my work. Like, it's not better, it's just different. So I was like, okay, I don't want to make a little thing that someone's just going to throw away. I'm going to make something that's substantial and beautiful and make them want to keep it, even if they don't have any room for me right now. So I made a little booklet of my artwork and she saw it. Gave it to her, and then she reached out to me. So tips inside of that thing were like, I made it like a little portfolio, like a little calling card, and my email was on every single page and my phone number was on every single page. Cool. And that's how I met my agent. But I also went to a workshop at that conference on how to write query letters to talk to agents. So be informed about the best ways to proceed in that industry by doing your research.
What fiction are you reading right now?
You start.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Vash. I just finished, I read a lot of graphic novels, so I just finished the beginning IDW series of Usagi Yojimbo. I'm reading a lot of like teacher books right now. This summer I've committed to being like a better teacher. With all the events that are happening, I'm one of the people who are in charge of the Black men's group at the school, Black and Brown men's group at the school that I teach at. So I really want to work on them becoming leaders. So I'm reading like a lot of books on like how to teach kids to be leaders and leadership and stuff like that. So I'm actually not really, I think it's going to be a lot of graphic novels as just like pleasure reading, because I'm going to be, and I have to do a lot of research for my Black history class, Black film history class. So, a lot of graphic novels, stuff like that.
In terms of fiction, what am I reading? Not a whole lot. I never finished The Overstory, which is probably my favorite thing I started reading in the last ever. I feel like I want to call it my favorite book, but I didn't finish it. And so I go back and read, a little bit every once in a while. It's an interesting way to write a book, and obviously it's very well acclaimed. It won the Pulitzer Prize. It's about trees, and I really love it, but I only read a chapter at a time. So The Overstory.
And it's a fiction book?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a fiction book?
By Richard Powers.
I have to check that out. What picture books do you recommend to amplify the voices of Black Lives Matter? Yours, of course. Are there any others?
I mean, that's an interesting question because I'm seeing people are tagging me in all of these lists and roundups. So, do you mean Black Lives Matter can mean a number of different things. Do you mean through activism? Because there are books about activism, like A for Activist, or The Youngest Marcher. But I sort of feel like to show how Black Lives Matter, I'm interested in Black joy and Black kids just doing cool things like watching meteor showers. So like Rocket Looks Up is an adorable one by Nathan. I have like slight dyslexia, so I don't know if it's Byron or Brian because it mixes up in my mind every day. Nathan, Brian, and Dapo Adiola. I really like anything by Ebony Glenn. She's a beautiful illustrator. She has a really sweet book called Mommy's Come Here. And she also illustrated this one about a ballerina that I don't remember the name of. And then I was just looking at Christian Robinson's Another, which I think is a really cool book. It came out right before Us, and I was like, wow, this is so weirdly parallel story to the movie Us. So you should check that one out. But it's made, with paper and collage, and just his work is great. I want to see his new one called You Matter. He's really famous. People see his work everywhere. I also really like anything that Cherie Miller works on, honestly. Princess Hair and Don't Touch My Hair. But I'm really excited to see her new one about Michelle Obama's garden called Michelle's Garden. And she has a graphic novel coming out called Curl Friends, about 4 Black girls with natural hair. Yeah, so for me, Black Lives Matter can also mean like Black joy matters.
Black joy does matter. We don't hear about that enough. So here's like kind of a 2-part question. They seem related. Is there hope for the self-taught artist? Imposter syndrome is strong and real. And then how do you deal with anxiety working by yourself? Hey, Dap Straws is here. What's up, Daps? Yeah, how do you deal with anxiety working by yourself?
Okay, well, I would say to the first part of that question, I definitely feel like I'm a self-taught artist. Like I started drawing again when I was at CalArts, but I didn't have a full education in animation or anything there. Oh, his last name is Brian. I'm sorry. Nathan Brian. Not Byron. I'm sorry.
Got him.
So I definitely think of myself as a self-taught artist because like I got just like the fire restarted while I was at CalArts and got, some guidance from some of the professors, but definitely didn't have like a real like ongoing relationship with them. So after I left CalArts, I was teaching myself as much as I could by looking at lots of different work, watching movies, watching a lot of tutorials. I took a bunch of Skillshare tutorials. I worked so briefly on an animated TV series as a production coordinator. It's kind of a mind-numbing job. I didn't get to do anything fun. I was like making spreadsheets all day. And so while I was making my spreadsheets, I would play a Skillshare video where someone would talk about graphic design. So I would kind of teach myself things while I was doing other things. And I listened to a bunch of podcasts, and I kind of investigated the history and the stories of the artists that I was interested in and figured out what did they do, where did they study, what projects do they do to keep themselves inspired. So I do a lot of that. And I took even more tutorials. I took one on, I've taken, I'm forgetting the name of it. It'll come back to me. Imagine schoolism. I took a schoolism course. I took the Tonko House schoolism course. And I've taken master classes. And honestly, drawing every day has taught me a lot. I kind of watch time lapses of people's art that I really like, and try to figure out what's working. And I go to lots of museums. So I definitely think of myself as a self-taught artist because I'm still teaching myself every day. And so it really helped to join that organization, SCBWI, to have a little bit of guidance. But otherwise, I think that people who are self-taught are making it through all the time. Honestly, like the idea that you have to go to some big fancy art school has really kind of shifted over the past couple of years, specifically because CalArts got into a lot of hot water for being so expensive, and students were really protesting while we were there and right after we left. I would definitely try to be aware that you're not alone, and lots of people are getting picked up for work through, without having those kinds of connections. So if you want to make it, I feel like really important things you have to do are have a very, very clear and easily accessible portfolio. Constantly update your portfolio. I don't do that enough. I know that I need to update. Instagram is really important. Make sure it's easy to find. Make sure your branding is across this is the same across platforms so people can find you. Like, I spend a lot of time with my editors and art directors, and I talk to them, and like a lot of them are young, a lot of them are on social media, and if they click the link to your website and it doesn't work, they're going to be like, this person doesn't care enough. And obviously there are options for that to like be a real not your fault, but also like do your best to make sure your work is out there and clear and easy to find, and that they can email you if they want it, and they want to know if you have representation or if you're looking for representation. So you have to, do as much as you can to make sure that that you've presented yourself in the best way possible, and then just constantly, update your portfolio. If you want to get into picture book making or any kind of book illustrations, make sure you show that you can do like stylized characters or however you draw. Make sure you have some more kind of like, sometimes you might get asked to illustrate like a history book, and so they may require more traditional looking content or less stylized characters, more naturalistic looking characters. If you want to illustrate middle grade novels, they often have to be in black and white because those books don't get printed in color. So make sure you have some spot illustrations in your portfolio. Make sure if you're good at line work, which I am not, show off your line work because people want that. I mean, illustrating a middle grade novel pays like solid, and I feel like there are more and more illustrated middle grade novels out there, so I would highly recommend capitalizing on that. And honestly, publishers are like really very aware of the campaigns for own voices. So, if you are, Latinx, or if you're, an indigenous creator, like it's important to kind of call that out because, they may need you and want you, and make that available. So I don't think you should feel discouraged because I think there are more and more opportunities out there. You just have to be able to be found. I feel constantly discouraged that I live and work alone, especially in the middle of quarantine. But I connect with friends. I try to do things like make different types of art. I make jewelry. I make films. I make cookies. And try to not be discouraged. And I have a cat who reminds me that going outside is awful. So he's great about that. Kwes, how about you?
I don't live by myself. I have a wife and a child, and they keep me busy.
How do you how do you make work with kids and family around?
How do I make work with kids and family around? I tell them I am making work for this like 2-hour period, and you don't get to talk to me. And then, I mean, you just gotta be like, right now I'm doing a documentary on my godbrother. So a lot of it is like interviewing over Zoom. So it is like you can't walk in and talk because I'm having a moment with the person I'm interviewing. But I think it's important to have like a time where it's like, I'm working on this and you don't get to like interrupt me. But it's also important to be like, okay, you gave me that time, so now I owe you time. So like, what do you want to do? I'm with my son. Like, he just made a level on Super Mario Maker, and I'm like, when are we gonna play? Like, let's play this Mario Maker level, or with my wife, just spending
it's like
time
more
and talking.
Active time rather than passive.
Yeah. It's just giving attention is really important, because then when you're making work, like the work is the most important thing.
Right.
Maybe that is the kind that's in me, where it's just like, no, like this is what I'm doing right now. So it's just about finding a balance.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good example for the kids, because then they're like, oh, that's how I can maintain this, and expectations for future mates. That's what I got.
Nice.
How you feeling, Cap? You feeling good?
I'm feeling good. I feel like we've exhausted a lot of the questions. I feel like I've rambled a lot. Are there any kind of quick fire questions anyone else has that we didn't get to? Because we,
There's
how
this
about we call
one
it quits
lady.
at 8:30? Okay.
Sounds good. There's this one lady who's been asking about Little Leaders cookie cutters like throughout. I
Oh,
feel like,
really?
yeah, we should give her an answer. Hi, Jess. Jess Roslin says hi. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I made custom cookie cutters for myself to make cookies to give to my publishers for Christmas time. I would love to have more Little Leaders merchandise. I like posted a picture of a pillow and I knew that I was going to get 1,000 picture questions about a pillow, so I tried to explain that I didn't make these pillows myself. They were made for like when I was on set at Good
What?
Morning America. And
Wait,
like,
they're pillows? I thought they were cardboard cutouts.
yeah, they're cardboard cutouts in the corner over there, but they also had these on set. And at the end, they were like, so we're going to throw these out. And everyone who was with me, my agent, my editor, my parents were like, we'll take them. And so my parents took them all home. I looked up the person that made them. They cost like $75 each. That's not sustainable. I feel very like I want to make content for you guys. I want to make more books for you guys. I am so aware that each one of these books costs like $18 each, and I want to find ways to make stuff, products, and merch that is affordable and accessible for you. And right now, doing that and ordering it for myself and like selling out of like a Shopify or an Etsy is like not sustainable. In order to make it affordable for you guys and like in order to get it to you, I would need to hire a whole team, and that's just not smart. So I would rather do like a licensing deal with someone who can do all of that stuff. So if hopefully people won't be bored with waiting, but you know, I hope to kind of play the long game, wait for the better options in the future, because I am not going to be shipping packages. It's not gonna happen. I'm sorry.
You gotta get an intern for that, yo.
Yeah. First, I need help answering emails and stuff. We'll get there.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think that's it. Do you guys anybody else? Posters, yes. LOL. Oh, Skillshare. This lady was asking about if you're gonna do another Skillshare at any point.
Yeah, I guess like I said, I'm a big fan of Skillshare. I took a bunch of Skillshare classes, and I had been wanting to make a Skillshare class for a long time. Even though I keep saying like I'm a filmmaker, I don't want to shoot the video myself. I don't want to edit it myself. It takes a lot of work. Fortunately, I partnered with Skillshare, and they invited me to make that class, and they did all the hard work for me. All I had to do was just perform. So yes, I want to do another one, but not until I can go into their studios and they'll want to do one with me. Because, bro, I don't want to be editing a video and sound and importing,
It's the best.
compressing. Ugh, golly, God bless you for it.
No, you know what? Here's the truth about being a film teacher is that you tell these kids to do all that stuff, but then when you have to do it, you're just like, oh man, come on. Really? Keyframes? Ugh. You just turn into, that's the truth about teachers. You turn into a kid. All right.
Thank you, guys. Sorry
Let's
for
call it.
rambling.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kwesi.
It was great. No, thank you. Let's go. We'll kick it.
All right, if you guys have more questions, hopefully this video has been recorded and saved. I tried to back it up 2 times, so I will post it on my IGTV, and so if you have more questions, you can add to them in the comments, and hopefully we'll try to get to them. Thank you again.
Thank y'all. Peace.
Bye.